Wagwan, are you there? What's good? And you know who this is, baby. The #1 podcast in America, dedicated to all you kings and queens of color, homies and homettes, shotters, woo gals, G-boys, and charges. The one and only Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast.
What's good, y'all? In today's episode of the world's most cultured pod, we discuss the newfound importance of frontline workers. During the pandemic, we realized some of the most crucial jobs that made our lives such a convenience. These jobs include teachers, first responders, and retail workers. With the world moving in a more digital age, there are no replacements for these frontline heroes. So listen in as we discuss what we appreciate and take for granted having these everyday luxuries. If you aren't already a follower or perhaps tuning in for the first time and would like to learn more about the show, then definitely check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Jerk Jollof Collard Pod. Additional ways to reach us provided in the outro at the end of the episode. We have some special surprise giveaways coming up in the next few weeks that will only be available on IG, so be sure to follow us to learn some more. This episode of Rep Yours is dedicated to the Beehive. This boutique, owned by Malene Davis, features local, independent designers offering apparel, housewares, accessories, baby goods, food goods, and jewelry. They are open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. and from noon to 5 p.m. on Sunday, and located at 1250 Caroline Street, C120, Atlanta, Georgia, 30307. Or you can shop online. You can find them at thebeehiveatl.com. That's TheBeehiveatl.com. Gents, so glad to have you back again tonight. Let's run it. All right. So what is your definition of a frontline worker? Glenn.
What's going on, y'all? It's your boy, G Ransom. And I would say definitely I probably held two definitions of what a frontline worker is or was. And obviously COVID contributing towards that. Like essentially frontline, I'm thinking the people that are usually the first point of contact, right? Like our emergency personnel, doctors, nurses, EMTs, all that good stuff, firefighters. But COVID made me realize, how important when them grocery stores start shutting down and things were getting scarce, how important them retail workers were, man, and fast food workers, like all those kind of fields that we overlook and positions we overlook, they were very, very much so the front line these last 2 years, man, like real talk.
Yeah, I think you make a good point too, because I think in general, we always kind of think of frontline workers just naturally traditionally, right? When we say frontline workers, we are thinking of those on the front lines of when facing, a situation, especially like a magnitude of COVID, healthcare workers, EMTs, for example. But, I will say that, there's still services that we still need in every day. And it's like those tend to get neglected, I'm about to say something real selfish, but like, trying to work, and then the cable guy comes and he makes sure your internet's still running, so that you can actually work from home. Like, he doesn't have to be out, and his safety is also important. So send a little love to the cable guy.
Facts, man, because internet was the lifeblood.
The internet was absolutely lifeblood.
Working from home, yeah, that was lifeblood right there. And it's crazy to think as well, too. Like, you think about the disparity in pay as like someone that works at McDonald's versus someone that works in the hospital. And it's just like, at the end of the day, they still got to show up to work. And so they get like enough respect for me because, people got to eat, especially when, like I said, the grocery stores too were shut down. It was crazy. No toilet paper, no TV, no nothing.
Mm-hmm. People flying at the toilet paper, like that makes zero sense. Like, I don't understand. I'll never understand that concept. How that was
how hard it was to get
off the shelf.
Pancake mix too, bro.
Anything out there, man. It was rough. For I guess before COVID, the way I thought of frontline workers I kind of interchange them with essential workers, but like later really realized that frontline workers is a branch off of essential workers. And the difference between the two is really like the amount of the what's the likeliness of you interacting with a customer, or like if your position is considered like in-person position, right? So really, like traditionally we think about I guess just like Glenn mentioned, we think of like your nurses, your doctors, people who work in the emergency rooms. But even like when we think about like even going to the gym, like the people who work in the gym and like that make sure the like just the floor is clean and all that stuff, we tend to overlook a lot of those people. But and one thing that we realize is they are really critical to the economy. You know, they are really the shoulders that we are standing on. So we have to always. Big shout out to all the essential to the frontline workers, because we will not be here without them, because somebody got to do it. So I'm thankful for them every day.
Yeah. So the definitions from Brookings.edu is, since the COVID-19 national lockdowns began, the term frontline workers has emerged to capture the vast number of people who must still report in the face of unknown threats to their physical health. Yet the term itself is informal. There's no legal definition of a frontline worker. So frontline workers, I don't think were well respected until COVID-19 hit and people understood how important it is. Like we were discussing, getting some toilet paper, just getting some pancake mix, all the stuff we usually do became an issue. And without these people working the registers, stocking the shelves, we won't be able to get it. I mean, we can try to order stuff off of Amazon, but even that was a headache with supply chains being disrupted. You had some things that weren't coming to 2 or 3 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
So that convenience of going down to the local grocery store, wherever it is, and picking something up became super hard. And then there really was no one in there. So those of you that actually went into work to do that, we definitely give you a huge thanks, and we appreciate that, because you definitely put your health on the line in order to serve us. So with that being said, do you know any frontline workers personally?
Yes, my cable guy. Without that, man, there's no way I'll be able to. No, but I don't know. It's like, it's so crazy how working from home, not always not being able to, travel or do whatever you typically do, or even in a time where we were kind of shut down and we couldn't even go to stores. I guess you start learning the impact of that when, things, like, okay, I'll just order things off of, like, these are so many of these different apps, right? That say that they can deliver food, they can deliver groceries, they can deliver all these things like that. And then, they can't come out. What do you mean? How am I supposed to get what I need?
Uber Eats was shut down.
Uber Eats shut down.
Bro. It was hard, man.
It was hard out here.
Though, and Lyft and all them.
Man, you can't get a ride nowhere. Oh man, imagine not being able to even talk about regular Uber or Lyft. You can't go nowhere. Can't do nothing.
Man, all I got to say, shout out to DoorDash, man, because I used DoorDash for the first time this past 12 months, man. More than I actually never used DoorDash before until COVID started. It was crazy. So I definitely appreciate them. But like, to answer the question, man, I know so many frontline workers, man. My mom is a frontline worker. All African moms, I feel like, are frontline workers. You guys, so many of them nurses and doctors and pharmacists, name any medical, position. And there's, we all got family members who work in those fields. But, but the people that we don't really talk about is the post office people, like our delivery people. They are critical to, like we're talking about, ordering stuff from Amazon, like who delivered that stuff to us? They are, so a shout out to all those people, man. I think we going through COVID made us realize, just how lucky we are. Cause, I know we already said this, but, just even having this conversation now just make you just feel thankful every day. So.
No doubt.
Facts, because you know, the amount of hours those Amazon drivers put in as well, it was like insane. Where you have like people legit quitting because they're like, yo, this is too difficult, this is too hard. And Amazon just really showed itself like, yo, if I can deliver in any situation, no matter what the turmoil is, I gotcha. And that's crazy. I wish to find the next business model that can do that. But
if I will say there's a dark side of Amazon, but I won't even go there.
The way they have to save that for a different episode.
The way they got to cut costs.
I'll leave it alone.
I'll just be honest. I could never do those jobs, man. Like shout out, like my demeanor and temperament, man. And once I'm like, there's people out here getting sick and dying, I'm good. I'm staying my ass home, figuring something out. But I get it. Like major kudos to people, like everyone's been saying as well. It's hard. That type of work is hard, man. It's not easy. So it's taxing on the body and the mind. But I don't really know too many frontline workers personally. Like, I mean, I think one group that's really neglected here are the teachers, and them too are frontline workers, considering some of the conditions that a lot of them had to deal with when it came to like parents being anti-vax or anti-mask, and you know, still being required to come in, you know, to the classrooms or do the virtual situation. Like, speak to any teacher, anyone in public education period or education period can tell you like how hard it was. And even outside of the pandemic, it's a pretty often slept on career or profession. And it's like, you know, I'm not sure if it's because, you know, of the hours they put in, or maybe because gender, like, I don't know, but teachers as well are thrown in there and probably deserve a prime spot dealing with not just the pandemic, but fears about it, the parents, the children, especially if they were teaching like anything below teens. Like, it was just hard.
That's tough. A good one too, because I could just imagine like where the parents will be asking the teachers like questions that are like way above them. Like they're not responsible for these type of decisions, but then they're getting requests. Oh, is your class this? Do you do this in class? Will they do that in class? Will they do like I don't have those answers. And then imagine them. And I think one thing that you even touched upon too, because it doesn't really change from a virtual perspective, because they still have to deal with all those kids. And imagine when they have their own children too.
Exactly.
Because working at home with kids is probably not easy. I could presume. So imagine, you know, I've been in enough Zoom calls where it's like, oh, sorry, that's my son, that's my daughter. Like, it's all good. It's all good.
I mean, but they feel like it's like an interruption, so it never.
Like,
really
but you gotta excuse your kid. But
like some people,
I'm not that person.
Some people don't like that, right? Some people are just like, oh, this takes away. There's noise in the background, so you always got to get that excuse. It's hard to work from home.
Man, if you're working corporate and you're not understanding in that, then you need to find a new job. Like,
you say that, but not everybody's the same. So
fine, but deal with it then. Like, it's not my problem. Kick rocks.
Yeah. I think your mindset
I don't have kids,
change,
but I understand.
Like I said, your mindset would change when you have kids, right? So like having a child that's just like, damn, I'm trying to like speak, and it's like an interruption. So you're like, hey, sorry. When everyone's cool with it, it's just like, okay, cool. Not that like my daughter will go crazy in the background. You try to mitigate that as much as possible. If someone doesn't like it, they just don't like it. It's just like, hey, we'll do the phone call some other time, or, you know, I'll just hit you in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just being professional in the sense that you have background noise. Like, not even kids. What about your dog barking at something? I've been on calls where someone's dog was barking, and it's like, hey, I'm so sorry. It's just like, nah, it's cool. Like, you understand you're home. So like, there's only but so much you can control, especially if you don't have the ability to send your child to daycare or send your dog to, you know, whatever care facility that you can. So you're trying to manage and balance all that. So it's just having professional respect for people at the end of the day.
I get it. But I do want to give two shout outs to two professions that we have not talked about: cops, frontline workers, you know, shout out to the police, and also social workers and a lot of the government workers. I know we haven't really talked about them, but those are really key.
You're just beating me to the punch.
Key people, and just to kind of talk about teachers one more time. I know teachers are critical to our growth, right? Our mental growth. You know, I know a lot of them actually. You know, even some of the older teachers were responsible to like learn new skills during COVID, like dealing with technology. Now they have to learn how to use Zoom, and then hybrid stuff where some students are in class and some are on Zoom, and they have to manage all of that. So there was a lot of stress that comes with being a teacher. And I mean, still, so like, I can only imagine like the amount of like stress. I know couple teachers who are older, and due to the more of the technology and even some of the stuff they had to do, they were ready to retire, because of there's some of the stress that comes with what they had to do. So I can only, I don't have, I haven't really sat down with a lot of teachers and really learn all the mental strain that they had to kind of figure out. But just kind of doing like learning, having to learn a new skill, and be efficient at it. And you have to deal with parents who are critiquing your teaching style. And because now the parents they have visibility to, how you deal with their kids and what lesson you're learning today. Now they have their feedback. I'm sure, even coaches, I'm sure they have to deal with like like teachers, like they're those parents that always like send messages to the coach like, yo, play my kids, they should be playing minutes. Now you have teachers, parents emailing teachers like, man, what kind of lesson are you teaching our kids? Like, now they got to deal with that. Like, I can only imagine the mental, like just the patient they have to manage all of that too. So, man, I don't know, man, but shout out to all the teachers, bro.
Yeah,
so you didn't want to shout out the principals and the janitors and the secretaries.
Yeah, all of them. There's so many. There's a lot of positions, man. We can't.
I like my principals, so I ain't gonna shout them out.
I mean, it takes
I'm be real.
do it,
I'm gonna be salty still.
All of them, all the frontline workers.
It takes a lot to make that happen, and I do know some frontline workers personally that dealt with a certain level of stress and frustration that it's not easy. Some people didn't have the level of respect needed to show them, and they look at it like, we know that's your responsibility, that's your job, so take it on. Being that we're speaking about teachers, teachers face a lot of adversity, or still are facing a lot of adversity during the pandemic. Do you believe they have the right to set the condition in which they work?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, I feel like at the same time, especially like I feel like they should have a choice to work. And I think that's the main thing, because obviously you're going to have, even with wearing a mask as an example, you had so many people that felt so many different things. They felt that it was like going against their rights and imparting or impeaching or disturbing what they are constitutionally afforded to do. And it's just like, obviously you're not going to make everyone happy. And I think like the best thing personally was to pay attention to the science, pay attention to the data, and use that to make decisions and just give people the choice. Like, hey, as a lot of states and a lot of industries have done, is either you meet these requirements or good luck, go somewhere else and figure out what you're trying to do. And I think that's honestly the only way that you could go about it. If you gave everybody a choice, you would get like a mixed bag. Some parents may not be comfortable with certain things. You have to kind of re-navigate everything. And I feel like that's not the possible way to do it. We had to focus on what was for the greater good, what the science and what the data said, and use that as a reference. I think that was the only way.
Looking at the science and data, there are people that have very strong beliefs. So it's kind of a challenge, right? So you have people that will listen to the science, you have people that will listen to other outlets. How do you really manage that? Because being a teacher, that's not easy. I think Francis was saying that before. There's a lot that you have to deal with. Now people can actually see what you're doing and what you're teaching the children. So how would someone of like pretty much a normal baseline and having to interact with individuals that are, wackadoodles on both ends, I'll say that. There are things that they believe that aren't really true, and there are things that they believe they are true, but you're having a mixed bag of kids in that class. So it's very hard to appeal to everyone, right? It's very hard to teach to all the children. So what do you think will be the best way to pretty much balance that? I mean, there are different ways to teach students, but where's the actual balance?
I would say, like, this will chime in on that one, but unless somebody else wants to take the torch first. But I would say essentially, like, there is no way to make everyone happy. And that's like the first thing I think would have to be understood. And that's the reason why making these decisions are so difficult, because you're aware that, hey, no matter what I do, everyone's not going to be happy. So at that point, you just have to focus on, like I said, the data and the statistics and what's actually going to provide a result. I think the outbreak occurring in China first probably gave us like an idea of like, hey, how can we respond to this? What do we need to start doing? And I'm not going to talk on the leadership at the time, but how it started and how it went, obviously it could have been better. But apart from that, it was like, for instance, you had some schools where for the kids that, let's say the parents felt like they didn't want their kids wearing a mask or whatnot, you had some kids that were tuning in virtually to attend their classes, and understanding that this could not be a permanent thing. But for most cases, you had situations where some kids went to school, actually showed up in person, and some kids attended virtually, and they worked it out that way. But the idea of making everyone happy, that's not possible. It would have to be, hey, here's what's best based on what we know.
Yeah, and I think that you speak on a really good point because, ultimately, the balance. I mean, I guess Chunky kind of, brought it up because basically framed the question in the true light, because there's two extremes of everything, and I guess with other topics, there'll always be polar opposites, right? So how do you even find the middle ground when people are so polar opposite, and even how they want their kids to be raised polar opposite, and now you have the teacher is literally one touch point. First of all, I want to just add, don't expect the teacher to be the full person that's going to raise your child. That's not their job.
Facts.
That's not their job. Their job is not to impart your will and your mindset on your children. That's not the teacher's job. The teacher is supposed to just teach them what, books, whatever's in the books. That's what they basically convey into the children. So if you have polar views, just know that the teacher it's not their job to reflect that. With that being said,
I was gonna hop in on that
please go ahead. Yeah.
Curveball too. It's just like there are some teachers that are the parents, right? That do have that mentor responsibility, because some kids may not have that at home. So when you say like it's not the teacher's responsibility to raise your child, but at the end of the day, they kind of assume that responsibility, filling in that neglect, right? It's not unfortunate, but it's kind of challenging because it adds a layer of teaching where they become a mentor or a guardian. So do you think that's fair to them, or do you think that's something that comes with the weight of being a teacher?
I think that's completely unfair. The reason why I think that's unfair is because because as we kind of talk about it, we talk about it as more of a standing expectation. I mean, going above and I feel like take any job, right? Any role, any profession you work in, there's always a baseline for performance for every profession. Even when, you're doing a profession that imparts knowledge or basically you're nurturing the next generation, there's still a baseline of performance. They have a rubric, they have what they need to follow. When they interview for the job, they have, this is what I expect for you, not to the point where they say, yeah, I'm going to expect you. There might be 3 or 4 kids that might be troubled, and we're going to expect you to, do the extra and, cancel your own personal time and do whatever and stay with them after school when their parents don't show up. There shouldn't be a standing expectation for that, and I think that's where, I feel like that when teachers do it, great. There's been teachers that have had huge impacts in my life. I don't know a lick of, I still don't really know a lick of Spanish. I'm really trying to learn it because it's like a second language of America. But Miss Pontanero, wherever you are, shout out to you. Shout out to Miss Pontanero.
Now we have to go and find her.
Literally my she was like my 5th grade Spanish teacher. And it wasn't even about Spanish. It was the fact that she would always kind of, give me advice and recommendations on other things that I was dealing with. That's a teacher that's going above and beyond. Gold star for her. But it shouldn't be her expectation to do that, And I think that's the part that we just keep doing that. We keep bringing more of our personal expectations onto these parents. Onto these teachers.
I'm not gonna lie. I think teachers double as social workers, which is very, very tough.
Yo, you're not capping on that one.
And that's how it is. Francis, you've been a little bit quiet over there. I see the hamsters running on that wheel with things that you may want to say. So,
yeah, I was gonna just go back to the question, like, do I think they can set their own condition? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think they have some control over it. You know, that's why we have unions. But at the end of the day, I think whatever the principal or the board, the school board or the district, whatever decision they made for the school is what needs to happen. If the teacher does not agree, she can utilize the power that has been granted to her, which is through the union. You know, they can go on strike or whatever, or you can quit, find a different job. There are different schools that have different rules that applies to your belief. So, but at the end of the day, you know, I think the teacher has to stay working the confinement that has been given, just like we all have to do the same. My job, you know, I can just, you know, I have some, you know, I can influence the condition of my position, but ultimately, I have to make a decision if I want to, if the condition is good, if it's cool with me or not. So that's kind of, I guess, my view on it. You know, they have the ability to influence the condition. You know, they control the things you can control, influence the things you can influence. But at the end of the day, it's whatever decision the school made is what's going to happen. If as the rule is you have to wear a face cover for the entirety of the school, even though you disagree with it, I don't know what to say, but you got to wear it. So I think that if you don't, then you can, you know, find a different school or quit or retire or whatever, you know. So that's my,
You a
you know.
cool brother, man. You a cool.
Oh man, ice cold.
Hey,
All
Go
right,
ahead,
can I
DJ.
drop some? Let me drop some. Let me drop some stats real quick, because the question that Chunky originally asked was, should they have the right? And we can all agree that they should, or we can agree that they shouldn't. But the thing is, I guess the true question is, will they have the ability to? Like, do they truly have the power to? Because one thing we can approach this from perspective is like, I mean, we talk about workers' unions, things of that nature, but then there's consequences when work doesn't get done, right? Like if coal miners go on strike, then guess what? There's no coal being mined. The mines will shut down. If teachers go on strike, there's no students being taught. And that impact, that consequence can sometimes weigh and can weigh in on the decisions that they make. So yeah, they have a teachers unions that maybe fight for them, but at the end of the day, prime example. So this is from the seedscientific.com. It's a really good website for getting statistical facts about different areas of industry. I tend to like this website a lot. Teachers on average, 50 hours a week. 51% of people thinking of teaching is probably the most notable profession, but yet there's a steady decrease every year of the amount of people that actually go for teaching, which to me says
because they don't pay
it's a
them
passion.
enough.
Yeah, because it's a profession of passion.
Right.
44% of new teachers think about quitting or will quit within the first 5 years. The average teacher spends almost $500 out of their own personal money on teaching materials.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stats go on and on.
Yeah.
But at 18% of teachers have to have mandatory. It's a half must have at least a second job in order to just make
Can I ask a
to make
question,
enough wages to live.
Like you mentioned a profession of passion. Like, I mean, I would think teachers are a necessity. Like a profession of passion to me would be like art, right? Like a guy paints something or a woman paints something and its value is determined by the people looking at it. You know, it could be made out of paint that costs $1 to make, but suddenly, and hey, it has some intrinsic value or some social value, and now it's selling for millions. But like teaching a profession of passion, like what do you mean by that? Or what do you think?
And the reason, I think that's a fair question. And the reason why I consider it a profession of passion is primarily what my cousin said. You know, they don't get compensated very well. And it's not fair that they get compensated the way they do. And it's not a secret. It's well known the compensation for teachers, you know, doesn't match the amount of stress and the amount of workload that they deal with. But there's people still actively going into that. So thus, for me, I see that as a passion. Like I want to help shape the next generation. I want to be a person that's going to, you know, be impactful from that level. I'm good with mentoring kids. I'm good with, I'm good on this specific knowledge area. I want to be impactful from that perspective, even though I believe that most people would have a sense of what they're getting into. The stats are well known. It's not a secret that as at least in the US that we don't necessarily value teachers as we in comparison to other professions. So,
So
go ahead.
My question to you is just like, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just like you call it a profession of passion because it's underpaid, underrated, and it takes a lot out of you, correct? Like you're not going to get a high return on doing this financially or compensation wise, right?
Yeah, partially. So yes, partially because of the fact that the compensation is not bountiful, but you're still going to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, because you can still get a lot from, maybe not from a financial standpoint, but my wife, she's a coach on the side, like part-time wise, but she considered that as her full-time job because it fulfills her more than her day job that actually pays a lot more. So to my cousin's point, I understand why, teaching is due to passion. I think it's a mix of both, because I think a good amount of people do go into it because it's something they love and because of the reason my cousin stated. And they do because they can see the impact they are having on those kids' life. That is their form of like, okay, I'm actually impacting this kid's life. I'm doing an amazing job. And because I can say that because my wife, when she watch her kids, when they go out there and swim their butt off and they win something, she's like, she comes home energized. Like you just see how excited she is compared to when she come home from her day job. She's drained, tired, complains versus, so like it's a form of energy that you get from like when you do that kind of job where you don't get from, it's not just the money, it's like enough. It's not enough.
I think money does make a difference in the sense that you shouldn't have to work a second job as a teacher, period, right? And we can look into collective bargaining agreements when we talk about unions, and the financial compensation should be a lot higher. Time off should be a lot higher because it's not an easy job. Like it was mentioned, you are shaping the future. With that being said, we have the power to change that, right? So teachers get paid off, they're public workers, so they get paid off a government salary. That government salary is depending on a municipality. How much a municipality brings in will determine how much those teachers get paid. Now, with that being said, understanding the value of a teacher, will you be okay with if they increase the taxes in your county or your city and that tax money goes towards paying more teachers? Are you willing to pay that increase in your tax?
The city I'm a humanitarian, so I automatically say yes. I have no problem with that.
Around the board.
They're gonna increase my tax anyways. Might as well go to people.
I know. At this
point, I'm just increasing my stuff. Might as well go to the teachers.
That's a good point. They're gonna increase it, so you might as well choose where it goes.
Exactly.
To Chunky's point, yeah, that is a thing that's one of the common arguments. Like the same thing, like if you wanted free education, free healthcare for everyone, how much are you willing to pay for those things? As great as they may be. So it's kind of like, but I agree at the same time with what Fran is saying. They're gonna increase some joints anyway. So
I mean,
it's
just stuff that happens, right?
So I already got a mail already. They increasing my joint. Man, it is.
This is gas prices now. Shit.
I mean, that's a little bit different. I mean, that's determined, like I think,
for petroleum.
It's tough, right? So, looking at teachers and what they do and how much time they spend, to me, it's very challenging to understand that they have to come out of pocket for stuff, right? That shouldn't be the case. I mean, I've donated to teachers before in a sense of giving them money for extra school supplies. That should be included in pretty much their salary. So, like, talking to councilmen and state legislators and state senators, you got to make that known where they shouldn't have to struggle. It's one of the most important professions that is out there, because without teachers, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We wouldn't be on this podcast talking intellectually, covering such a wide gamut of different situations. So we owe them a lot. And it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to empty your pockets for it, right? So people who volunteer on their off time to do sports at schools or just to come in as a sub, it takes a lot of heart and a lot of goodness in an individual to do that, because the only thing you're really getting in return is promoting a better future, right? And these are going to be the kids that are going to take positions that may look after us. They may be the next president. They may be the next congressional member. They may be the next CEO of a company that has a determination about our cable, right? So we're paying $1,000 to get 100 megabytes per second. And that's a student that at some point you came across. So we have to treat these frontline workers, specifically teachers, with a lot more respect and dignity, saying like, okay, let me not harass this teacher. I think it was brought up that there's a principal, there's different layers. The teacher doesn't know everything. And I think, Fran, you said it, if you don't like it, get out. I think that's kind of cold-hearted, because you're really setting a standard where it's just like, I think the way I understand it from you was that if you don't want to wear a mask, then you don't need to be in that profession, because you're not looking out for safety for people, right?
Not really, you don't have to be in it, because there are schools who also align with the same belief. So maybe, I know it's hard to find jobs out here, but I'm just saying, like, we can only control the things that we can control, and we can influence the things we can influence. At the end of the day, we just have to, like, sometimes we got to go with what the reality is until the change that we are expecting to happen. So, but I do have a question though. Regarding, teachers spending extra money, I've never really thought about this before, but can they claim those charges on their taxes and potentially get a reimbursement from the government?
There's only like
a
certain amount that they can claim.
Sure.
That's a really good question. I think we'll have to dive into that a little bit further.
If you dial a teacher, I can dial a teacher right now.
Because I wonder, because I was like, if they can,
I think they would have done it though. I think like teachers are very savvy in like saving money and like pinching pennies. But I don't know. That's really a good question. I don't think teachers would be like, "Oh, I'm spending this out of pocket and I want to complain about it and do nothing about it." I think
they're not complaining though. You're just doing your taxes, right?
I think they're very
taxes. You just have a box somewhere where you claim it, and
I think it can be claimed, but I think like with anything, there's a limit. If there is a limit, then that limit should be increased for teachers to be able to be reimbursed to a certain dollar amount. If it's $500 on average, instead of just claiming it on your taxes, you should just get that in your paycheck. Like period, okay. It should be given to you.
Well, for the state of New Jersey, I believe it's up to $250 that they can claim on their taxes for any school supplies that they buy out of pocket.
Ew. I just said that it's on average 500 for teachers.
So like, so it has to increase. So, and that's the thing. It's just like that has to get changed. Like, yeah, D-Black did point that out. But hey, this is where we're at right now. But at the end of the day, that rolls into the next question. With that being said, with inflation being where it is, do you believe that any frontline worker, including teachers, should one have a pay raise or increase incentives? This could be discounts on food, housing, tuition, or transportation, or even just extra things that they spend on that's necessary to do their job.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you're essential, show them how essential they are. You know what I mean? Like at one point you even had like Chipotle giving frontline workers, emergency workers, like I think discounts on food. And like other different establishments are doing the same thing as well. But I think like another thing to pay attention to as well, as far as like giving out more money, is also checking the quality of the teachers as well. Like believe it or not, there are some people that teach because they feel like they have no choice. And I could probably use a current example today. The gentleman in Indiana, I'm not sure if you guys saw, who slapped a student in the face in the hallways. And that's like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, you know, as far as like the quality of teachers as well, like we need great teachers and they're essential, because I understand they're human beings too. They're going through things. And like we all already acknowledged, their job is hard. You know what I mean? It's like getting people to listen to you that may not want to listen.
Mm-hmm. So African can be teachers for sure.
Yeah. So I would hope with that pay raise, it would increase the quality of the teachers as well. Maybe more people would be getting into it, you know, seeing that my life is a little bit more comfortable. It could be they're paid so low that, yeah, it's adding more stress. And when you think about inflation, yeah, it should properly be met. Like everyone should be able to survive, not even just by career or profession. Like wages should go up if the cost of goods are going up. Yeah. Because that's how our economy works. Like if people aren't able to spend, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And I think disparity there. Like I completely agree, but unfortunately, like over the years, we haven't kept up with inflation. I think that's the challenge, right? So like we're trying to kick back several years of inflation, and it's just hard. So that kind of takes a toll on the business. Like I believe that, and I agree that every time things increase, we should increase wages with it. But it's a challenge. It's a very hard challenge to sit here and tell that someone should be paid $15 an hour or whatever the rate needs to be when that company or whomever has been paying them 750, 825. Like how do you think we should tackle that way? I agree that no one should live on a poverty line, not in the U.S. No one should be struggling to pay for food or anything in general.
I'll say, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as far as the business goes, I mean, you probably have to look at your business model at the same time as well. If you could get somebody to work at like 750 and put in 8 hours, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Because I know 750 ain't paying nobody bills, but like, go ahead, D. But that's all I have to say. Like, when you look at this from business point of view, that kind of raises more questions as far as, okay, why is he or she charging this much? Why is this business charging so much? Are they potentially cheating, their workers? Are they able to retain workers? Because with the past 2 years, we saw the advent of the era of the Great Resignation. And it was just like people realizing, hey, the quality, the conditions at work. That's another thing too, where you work and the people you work with is also another, like, I feel like a tax, like an emotional or mental tax. But yeah, go ahead, D.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually probably just going to be able to piggyback right off of what you were saying, because I think that's part of it. And, as we are all very well educated, gentlemen, I still think that the complexity of that is kind of well above us. And the reason why I say that is because in order to increase his wages, yes, now the employer has to pay more. And now as kind of small businesses, they basically have to come in at a higher price point for smaller businesses. Do they now need to get a stipend? So there's a lot more complicated pieces that go into it. So, I know for a fact, I don't feel confident enough to say exactly where the contributions need to be kicked in. But even if it's not solely just income, giving them tax breaks, is that something that's feasible that doesn't have a direct connection to any employer? Incentivize them from that perspective. Maybe, when they buy clothes, they can, you get more money back for clothes, or get discounts that, the average person doesn't get to get, have more, a higher value that they can increase, that they can claim on their taxes, things of that nature that maybe doesn't directly impact an employer. Maybe that would work, and this is just me just postulating, but I do think that there's ways around it, that it doesn't have to be so blanket as in the employer has to just automatically pay them more, but I do think that it is also a very complicated situation.
Can we talk about those corporate tax breaks that Trump gave out though? Like, come on, like from 35 to 21, like, that's a little bit of influx you got coming in there. If you're not spending it on your staff and your personnel and trying to improve the processes, then what are you spending that money on?
I mean, certain administrations make certain decisions, and that hopefully will change with the next administrations that take place to balance things out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, with inflation is like, I think 7.5%, which is like a 40%, 40 years high. So if the question is, I think we all need a pay increase, but to really focus on the teachers, I think teachers definitely need a pay increase. I think to, just the amount of workload that they have to carry on, and like you said, Chunky, if they are super essential, as we stated, we should speak with our pocket, so we should definitely treat them as such and ensure that they are paid accordingly. Because I think that's one of the reasons, kind of going back to the quality of teachers that we have, they are trying to make, we are talking about getting, teachers who look like us in locations where especially things like that are critical. People are not going into teaching because the money is not there. If the money is there and it's a competitive, job sector, then I think we can will see increase or even improvement in the quality of teaching. and the output from the student as well. Right now we have a select few of great teachers, and the other ones are a good chunk of them are average, and we have a good amount of bad teachers. Like to your point, the teachers just smacked the shit out of that kid, man. He was just minding his own business. I don't even know what the story is, but the boy was walking in the hallway and the teacher just ran up on him and just smacked him across the head, and he hit his head against the wall. Like, those are the teachers that are teaching our kids. And we are, I know we don't want the teachers to raise our kids, but there's still a level of expectation that we have for teachers to be responsible adults. So, and we trust them with our kids, and we don't want to like be dealing with shit like that. And we like stuff we see on the news. I feel like we see so much stuff on the news with teachers, and we need to hold them accountable, and we also have to pay them so we can actually hold them even to a greater accountability in our society.
I think there's some accountability there. I think you mentioned it and captured it in the sense that we don't know what the situation is. So my thing is giving everybody the benefit of the doubt before something happens. Is what he did was correct? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. There are some good teachers and bad teachers. It is a public service type of work. So you're going to pull people off the street in order to do the job. I would suggest like a screening panel for them to screen them before they actually get the job, and then make sure. And then there should be a certain type of tolerance policy where physical violence is obviously not tolerated by any stretch of the imagination. So it's as a very tough.
Put your hands on people, whatever.
You said what?
I say you're just trying to put your paws on people.
Nah, so like the way I look at it, it's just like in essence, if you put like a zero tolerance policy in defending yourself and like being able to like just if a student's attacking you, you just gotta sit there and curl up in a ball. Like I think there's some caveats in it. So it's just like you're talking about you're in high school, some kid wants to bow up and push you around, and the policy is like you can't fight back. So as a grown ass man, I'm just gonna sit there, or a grown ass woman, or however you prefer to be. I'm just gonna sit there and just get my ass whipped by a kid, right? Because I can't defend myself. So there is a balance point there. I think D Black, you have a question?
Yeah, because that specific situation in Indiana, that is, I mean, obviously that's one point of reference, but I will say, and I mean, maybe I'll just ask just general, of course, I'm not walking around public schools, so I don't know, but I do see that an increase, at least, or maybe just, from social media or the videos that get shared, where students just literally have very, very little respect for your teachers. Like where they like will call teachers names in the middle of the class. Like they'll be doing virtual lessons and kids will be outside. And I don't know, growing up, when I was in public school, your teacher was absolute authority. You was always terrified of them. I mean, we went to a school where there was, gang members in those schools, and they were still scared of the teachers, but I just feel like nowadays, like the kids don't really give a damn. They don't care what the teachers say. They don't care who the teacher is. They don't respect the teacher's authority, So how do you empower the teachers? Because I feel like telling them to curl in a ball while these kids have you seen these kids? These kids are huge. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, we got a couple cousins that's playing football right now, and man, they are huge. They look like grown men. That 8 grown men.
I would take a page out of Francis's book, which is a page out of my book, just let them put the pause on them.
That's what I'm saying. So I do feel like there should be some kind
balance.
There still needs to be some balance and all that. But to simply say that teachers are the problem and not saying that, the kids are the problem, I think the truth of it is, and I'm about to go there. I think the truth of it is that when people would rather say teachers are the problem than saying that kids are the problem, because if you say kids are the problem, then what is that reflecting of?
Parents.
Poor parenting.
Yeah.
And nobody would dare.
It is what it is, though.
Nobody would dare. They're a bad
what you do at home is what you bring to school most of the time.
That's the same. I mean, just think about it. Let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest.
Let's talk about it.
There's nothing that you did in school that you wouldn't have done at home. Like there's not no point you said some shit at school that damn well shouldn't come out your mouth while you're in your own household. There was
Absolutely. I agree.
There are no actions that you took that was against how you were raised while you were in school.
Okay, yes.
No, I
agree.
mean not dealing with the adults. Maybe like amongst my peers.
No, but like
maybe.
even one thing, you ain't this one. You know what I mean, let's stop fronting. We
No,
all did
dead
something
ass.
that we shouldn't have did.
Everything I did was with the peers, not against my authority or the teachers. No.
All right.
not
So
like
while
that.
you was cursing in high school, you was cursing at home.
That's my point though. It wasn't directed at no teacher. It was
When I say it's directed at
peers.
Short, no, he wasn't.
I would never curse at my teachers. I never did.
No, we're not talking about who is directed at. We're talking about in general.
Just behavior, just a shift in behavior
general.
from at home to at school. Was it identical? And no cap, I know for me,
that's different. Yeah. Well, if it's general behavior, yeah. I mean, there's some things.
But you still, but to my cousin's point, that there was still boundaries with your teacher that you knew not to cross.
Exactly. That's what
and
I'm saying.
I believe there was some stuff I would never do. I would never say to my teacher. I would never. You know what I mean?
You feared your parents more.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't say it's bad parenting, right? So like once again, it's that balance, right? So it's just like kids are going to act up when they go to school. Now, does it make it right for what they're doing?
There's definitely bad parenting too.
It's what do we say?
I mean, the question: how many
unorthodox parenting?
Unorthodox, yes.
Boy, oh boy.
Oh boy.
No boy.
So it brings us to this.
If somebody listening to this, like, I ain't no bad parent.
Hey, back
I'm unorthodox.
We love all the parents out there. Shout out to all the parents.
I am not an unorthodox parent. You got to say it in the mirror 5 times for it to be true.
I let him drink spoiled milk if he wants to drink spoiled milk and stay up to 3 a.m.
Go ahead and slap your teacher if you want to.
Let him know.
Why do we automatically get ghetto though when we say that?
I don't know why we do that.
I mean, but that's what we know, right? That's just from our background.
That's bad conditioning right there.
Yo, I just thought of remember that Kevin Hart's skit when he said his mama told him he could go and curse out his teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
I ain't tell you to say all those other words.
I know. Oh my god, that is a funny.
It happens. It happens.
Boy.
So, if you had a choice to be a frontline worker, which frontline worker would you be and why?
Oh, I'll be none. I couldn't do it. You said if I had a choice, and my choice would be not to. But let's say for the sake of the question, I had to pick one. I mean, like I can't sit here and pretend like I really don't know. That's a tough one. I probably would want to be like selfishly, like maybe like an EMT or something like that. Or I don't know. It's tough, but I would say maybe for the sake of answering the question, maybe like an EMT. For the reasoning, I'm not really sure why. Anyone that worked in the hospitals were like the first ones to get in contact potentially with the virus, even as an example. But this, I guess, being able to be in that response and rescue kind of scenario or position, can't sleep on it. Like they're important, they're essential, and would have to be definitely something within the medical realm if I had the choice.
Cool.
Plus, I always play medic in every game we play anyway. So
You're a horrible medic. You're a horrible medic.
You're always the medic.
You let people die.
You always forget to heal. Though.
No, you do too much in the battle. Nah, I'll come get you later.
Man,
like, I am dead, bro.
I guess I could go second. Frontline workers actually depend because they don't get paid enough. A lot of them depend on government assistance, a lot of things. So due to that, and me not wanting to rely on anyone, so I think I would go for like a ER nurse or something because you have such a high impact on people's lives, in that kind of position, and you also make enough money where you can take care of your family and have to need government assistance. You can live. So for me, that would be my one employment option.
For me, if I had to pick, I guess I wouldn't pick a specific therapeutic area, but I would just pick nurse in general. I feel like just because of, for the same kind of things that my cousin mentioned as far as the revenue part. But, the truth of the matter is, it is very difficult to choose because of the fact that, I think one thing, like I said, I like to give credit to people who do the work that I am, don't have the gall to do, because these are all tough professions. Anytime you even think of a frontline worker in any profession that comes to mind, it's just like, ouch, wow, ouch. That's tough. That's hard. That's like, so kudos to them, first off the bat again. But, it just speaks solely to like the level of impact that you have. And, but yeah, for me, I would just have to say nurse if I had to choose one. But, the truth is, to go to like Slassie's point, like if I really didn't have to pick, I would not pick one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, when I was in college, I was actually going into nursing, and I think I got that African bug to go into that nursing field. My first 2 years in college was in nursing, then I later switched and went into something else. But so obviously, I've worked in group homes when I was in college. I worked in group home for 2 to 3 years. So for me, nursing I think it's because I'm such a natural caregiver or caretaker. So like nursing was an easy decision for me because of for all those reasons, because I've done it. I've been in that space, and just the impact that you have on people's lives. You save, you can make and break people's life, right? Because of the action that you take in those situations. So, but yeah, to your point, man, I mean, that's why later on, and the reason I decided to switch was when I had to make a final decision and apply into nursing school. I was like, do I actually see myself as a nurse? And the answer was no. So that's when I switched over to something else. So, but yeah, just wanted to add a little more context into why I picked nursing.
Believe it or not, I would pick teaching. I've done a lot of volunteer work in schools, and I see the challenge and difficulty, but also saw the reaping of the rewards, right? So some kids are some badass little kids. Like they're fucking evil. I'm not gonna lie to you. They say some things, they're unfiltered, but it's refreshing to hear some things that they do and what they say. And it's even more refreshing when you're able to have a huge impact on the youthful society. I've dealt with kids that were getting into fights consistently, stepped in, talked to them. They called me an old ass man. They said, oh, like I was 50. Kind of hurt. But it's just how they are.
Oh shit, you don't know what 50 looks like.
Exactly. That's what I had in my head. I'm like, man, this is
like, don't crack, stop it.
But their grades came up, they stopped fighting, they became better students, and they became just better kids. And to me, it's not about the money. To me, it's about the impact, right? I mean, I would have to go and get a second job, but there's a huge relief when you're able to influence society at a later date, right? And I can guarantee you everyone on here can remember something that a teacher has said to them that has reflected today. And that's the importance of teaching. I give kudos to them because every day is not a good day. Every month is not a good month. Even when they're not working in the summer, they are working in the summer, right? So it's pretty tough, but I would definitely take the hardest, what I believe is the hardest of them all.
Chunky, are they really working though?
Yeah,
are they really working? No.
They are. Like
I'm just joking. I don't know.
like knowing teachers and like being around the environment, and even like fairly recently, like yeah, they're you would think like they're on their lunch break smoking a cigarette or just doing something ridiculous, looking at TikToks. But most teachers that I've seen are always grinding, like always grinding. And it is never.
I was talking about the summertime though, when they're not.
Yeah, even in the summer, I know some people that
summer school.
Summer school picked up a second job.
Second job.
Second job. That's different though. It's not teaching.
No, they have to. It's like in a line of teaching.
Francis trolling, y'all.
No, I'm just being factual. Yes.
Nah, I mean, like you got to understand. So I don't know. It seems like you have this like feelings about teacher that's just like different from all of us. I appreciate it, but it's just like,
no, I love teachers.
You a cold man, bro.
Teachers are the funnest.
How much you love them, Francis?
A lot.
on a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10.
I love teachers and nurses.
This is going to be the clip that we're going to
Like
put on
love,
social
love,
media.
or love.
love.
Yeah, man. It's a tough profession. And it's not saying all the other frontline working jobs aren't a tough profession, especially retail. I can't imagine being at the counter and someone yelling at you and saying, like, I make more than you, or just degrading you. And it's just, to me, it's senseless, right? It's senseless to speak to any human being that way, no matter what they do. You don't know their background. Maybe they're just doing it to make a couple of extra dollars to just get something that they want. Maybe they've been dealt a bad hand and this is the job they've been granted to work hard at to move into something else. Maybe they're taking care of their family because things have happened. Treat people with respect at all times, no matter what profession they do, whether it's flipping burgers at, whatever establishment, or whether it's, not working during the summer as a teacher. Give them the respect that they've earned as a human being.
So one thing to add, Chunks, if I may, I think with frontline workers, see, some of those things you just mentioned, it's so funny because I think naturally as human beings, we always feel like we can do everything, right? Like there's nothing we can do, or that's basically how it brought up to be. But I think it's important to kind of know
after 30.
Or after 30, right? You got to know your limits though, right? And the reason why is just that because it's just so crazy. I have so much respect for frontline workers because they are special people, because it takes a special type of person to have that type of patience, to be dealing with a patient and then they're berating you about their beliefs, or they're, telling you that you're not doing a good job, and you still give them the best quality care you can. Yeah, or a barista who, you don't put, I said 2 sugars and you put 3 sugars, but you're still like, yes, ma'am, here's your coffee, best wishes to you. And you still sign a cup. Like, I just can't imagine being in a position where someone's berating me like that, and I still have to give them the best level of service and still manage to be the best,
So you don't always have to.
What'd you say?
I say you don't always have to.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. But kudos to, but I know that, but that's part of the profession, and that's what makes them unique people, because they're able to do that.
Would you feel some type of way if they went off? That one time they just went off. Like that one day you came in, you're in that line. They've been dealing with so much shit all week. Someone's like, you're a piece of shit. I don't like you. You can't bag my groceries correct. I want somebody else. And they just go off on them. Do you think that's acceptable?
Oh yes.
Wow, you use a very specific word there. Acceptable. Oh man. Is it their right to do so? Does that person have it coming? I believe the answer is for me and founding yes, but expectation is that they shouldn't, right? That's the expectation, that they shouldn't. But does that mean? But again, two very different things. But I don't know. That is hard.
This is where who you are matters, because
really,
if you are the person that's always calm but eventually pop off that one time, your manager will understand, because I've worked in customer service before, and I know how hard it is, bro. Like if you even your manager eventually will have your back. Like, yo, like you're not supposed to talk to our employees like that. It's unacceptable. Like, bro, I've worked in customer service. I know I'm not saying I've like went off on people. I've done, like, in my years, man, right in college, man, I was doing all kind of stuff. Like, and trust me, I've worked in customer service position many times, and I've been called the N-word, man, like while I was working before. Like, it's kind of like one of those things you deal with, and you have to learn to just stop, take a breather, and walk away. But if you do pop off that one time, you've built enough credibility over the time where you do get some level of grace.
It depends on your manager.
I think it's twofold. But Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why I disagree with that is because to say always, that's not always necessarily true. Like, it's not that absolute. Like, I feel like when you're hired, especially with those type of jobs that are like retail, the expectation for any job that you do that you're hired for is you're going to meet like the certain decorum, you're going to meet a certain standard. If you're in the customer service field, the retail field, that's customer service, believe it or not. It's more than just processing a transaction or making that coffee. It's service through and through. That's what people eventually always come back for. And I think, yeah, with this expectation that if you're dealing with an unruly customer, like to protect your best interest, I think you should always want to protect your best interest, in anything that you do, especially if it's a shit job. It's just that, that pop off could sometimes even cost you your job. You know what I mean? So it's not all the time that managers have your best interest, but, even sometimes where there'll be situations where your manager will reprimand you right in front of the customer. And it's like, I feel like in that situation, like if you feel like you're going to pop off, you know yourself well, try to get out of the situation, right? Like say, hey, yo, boss, we got this unruly customer. Get it documented and witnessed first before you pop off, because we've all seen those videos in McDonald's and KFC where people are throwing fries and chicken and it's like a brawl inside the fast food chain. And it's just like,
I'm not condoning fighting.
750 ain't enough.
Okay,
Fuck it.
Disclaimer. I'm not saying pop off and fight people.
And throw food.
There's still a limit here.
So don't throw the balls is what you tell me. Don't put the balls.
Hey, I'm saying there's still a boundary here, but you can't
do it
stand
the
up for
right
yourself,
way. Do it the right way, because I believe in energy, and it's just like, yo, you never know what that situation can escalate to, and next you know you're behind bars, even though you never even started the damn thing. So it's just like, with any case, try to think ahead, protect yourself. If you want to step away, you're better off stepping away than stepping into the fray sometimes, in my opinion, because honestly, especially with stuff like that, when it comes to your job and you're expected to do a certain feat or fulfill certain duties, I've seen managers flake, and it could just be ugly for everybody. And I mean, who wants to be on TikTok getting slapped up at McDonald's? Like, you already don't get paid enough. You know what I mean?
I mean, you may go viral.
They
wrong reason, viral for the wrong reason.
I mean, isn't McDonald's paying like $18 an hour now? Like they're paying a little money. So. And sorry to just do a disclaimer. Not all managers might go along with what I said. So don't go by what I said. Don't go by what I said.
Pick your own adventure.
What I said. Yeah, like it's your own risk, bro.
I would say I have an example of that, and I worked at a video game store in college, right? And then the guy came in, was just like, "Hey, I want this game." I'm like, "Okay, we don't have it." And he's like, "Why don't you go check in the back?" And I was like, "Sir, to be honest with you, there is no back. Whatever's out on the shelf is honestly what we have." And he was like, "Don't fucking lie to me. Go in the fucking back because you're being lazy." I'm like, "Cool. Well, there's no more fucking games out here. This is the shit that we have. And that's it." It's like, "Oh, you don't fucking talk back to me?" I was like, "Yes, you're being belligerent and disrespectful. So you cross that line. This is what you get. And at the end of the day, you're not going to get this fucking game because we don't have it." So it's like, at that point, I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm trying my best, but I was just like, I'm not going to throw hands with you, but you're not going to berate me because you have a belief. And I tried to explain that to you. So I went to the manager at the time. I was like, "Listen, full disclosure, I just cursed this dude out. Be honest with you, he's going to say some shit to you. I got pissed off. I fucking cursed him out. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I tried to explain the situation." He was like, "Cool." So you talked to the guy got belligerent with him, and he kicked the guy out. He was like, "Hey, you did nothing wrong. Thanks for telling me." And that was it. So there is a mix. I would say be transparent, right? So if you are in a bad situation, just let it be known. I agree with Glenn. Know yourself, right? All of us are different. Some of us are willing to step into the fray because we know how to manage it. Some of us need to step out of it. But when you talk to your, supervisor, let them know, like, "Hey, this is what happened. Full disclosure, this is what I did." And you kind of just take your lickings, right? You may get, reprimanded and not have to work for a week or two, or you may keep your job, or you may get fired. But, it's all what it's worth to you and how people treat you. And never treat someone with disrespect, no matter who they are and what job they have. Janitor, principal, CEO, does not matter. Even the maid that's in your hotel room, treat everyone with respect, because everyone is somebody to somebody else. I don't sit here and say treat people the way you want to be treated, because some people may want to be treated like shit. So
yeah. And
it's weird.
Yeah, and how I followed that up too is just wait till you clock out, then get your shit on. You know what I mean?
Wait, you're still
I'm about to take my lunch break.
You went opposite from your good advice.
Yeah, you know, at the
Damn.
job, you P's and Q's. But remember, there's a world outside of work.
Oh my God.
And in that world, you know, it's between you and God and the authorities.
Like, meet me
And
outside.
the authorities.
Parking
Get off
lot.
at 5, bro. Wait for me.
Like, oh, word.
Outside,
Like,
boss.
you want to pay by car? Let me see your ID real quick. Oh, okay, I know where you live. Gotcha.
Oh my
dude.
God. That is-
Okay, on that one.
Boy, that escalated real fast.
For more content and to learn more about the podcast, feel free to check us out at Jerk Jolo Color Pod on Instagram. Podcast episodes drop every Wednesday. Stay tuned for the outro coming right after this to learn additional ways to reach us and send us your feedback. Be sure to like, share, follow, and or subscribe. Like what you're hearing, feel free to leave us a review on your preferred streaming platform of choice. See you all again next week. Peace.
Peace.
It's out.
And I'm gonna end every episode with a curse in Jamaica.
Ross.
I want to see who's listening towards the end. So if you listen, drop a Ross clot in the comment and let us know that you heard that. Thank you.
And that concludes today's episode, but that doesn't mean the conversation has to end. As a matter of fact, feel free to check us out at JJC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for our post-discussion question following the release of this episode. If you are a Black or minority business owner or professional that would like to be featured on the Rep Yours segment of our show, or a listener with some general feedback for the podcast panel, feel free to shoot us an email at jjcpod@gmail.com. As always, likes and comments are always appreciated. Be sure to subscribe or follow to be notified when the next episode releases. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.